Hello, everyone. Welcome back to another episode of Star Wars Alliance, your home on the Geek Ultimate Alliance podcast network for any and all things Star Wars. I am your host, as always, Katie, and joining me once again, he is officially back. We have the one and only Clay. Clay, how are you doing today?
I am actually doing pretty good. Today I was off from work, so I got to spend some quality time here at home with Amberlyn, with Abby, with Flynn. Didn't get much done, but I got to relax a little bit. So it was fun while it lasted. I do have tomorrow off, so I have some stuff to get done tomorrow. But today was just a lazy day.
Lazy days are always good. We need those in our lives. Matt and I are talking about when our next planned lazy day is going to be, aka it's going to be our anniversary trip at the end of the year. So that's how far in advance I'm planning. Because we still haven't booked anything and are like, oh yeah, we're gonna go somewhere. So, anyways, so y'all, today we have several pieces of news. We have 8 pieces of news, and some of them aren't like a whole big topic or anything. Um, but we're going to be talking about Andor episode 11 after we get through all of the news. And then if you're here live, you will get to listen to us talk about our thoughts on Convergence and some spoilery topics. We'll make sure to do a non-spoiler section first and then go into a spoiler section just because obviously book isn't out until next week. But we wanted to go ahead and get the review done. And that will be in podcast feeds on Sunday for everybody to check out. Um, so yeah. But if you're here live, you get to hear both at the same time. So sneak peeks. We love it. Um, but first things first, podcast paperwork. So, like I said, I was about to say slice of film. Star Wars Alliance is part of the Geek Ultimate Alliance podcast network. We have 8 shows, 7 days a week, and you can check all of those out in the description box below for your reading pleasure, whether you're on YouTube or you're on your favorite podcatcher of choice. Speaking of your favorite podcatcher of choice, a very good way to support us, one of the 3 ways, is to rate and review us on your favorite podcatcher of choice. Those reviews help put us into the feeds of other listeners who may not be following us on social media. The second way to support us is via Patreon, where we have 2 tiers. The $1 tier helps keep the Kyber crystals charged around here, and the $5 tier gets y'all ad-free episodes, exclusive episodes, and any early episodes that may drop. The second or the third and final way, did I'm out of order this time. The third and final way to support us is by listening to the ads. We're an ad-supported show, ad-supported network. Clay or I will give you a warning before those ads are to occur, but just so you know now, we don't get to choose who the ads are from, nor how many times you could say man in the same episode, nor how loud those ads are. So that warning should have you prepare those volume levels. Again, we appreciate you listening, as it does help support the network. Also, just as a heads up for our tier 2 Patreon subscribers, there is a Patreon call-in this Friday at 9 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. I know I'm going to be there. I believe Clay is going to be there.
Yes.
So you can hear both of us. We're going to be talking about Black Panther, Wakanda Forever, some other things. And tier 2 Patreons get the chance to call in. So if you're one of those, available at 9 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, the link will be sent out to you so you can check it out. But it is a group conversation, so I know Chris is going to be there. I think Brent is going to try and sneak in, as well as some others. So, yeah, lots of good opportunities all around to hear the voices of the GUA Podcast Network. And I think that's it. Oh, next week, one last announcement. Next week, we will not be having a live show. I'm going to see Knives Out, and Clay has to work. So, Clay and I will be recording our Andor season 12 finale the morning of that Wednesday, so that it can still drop into feeds on Thursday for podcast listeners. So if you're here with us typically on YouTube, sorry we won't be here. But you can always take a look at Convergence if you had to pause with Convergence coming out and you got a chance to read it and come back to this video. So
And of course, I will be available for a short amount of time between us recording the Andor finale review and work. So I will be getting that into Patreon before I even leave. So if you guys want to hear our thoughts, you can if you join our Patreon.
Yes. So that is some very good ways to check us out. And then the first week of December, if Clay is off, the goal is for us to have just a free for all kind of discussion with all of the Star Wars comics that have come out recently. We had the High Republic uh 2022 run has started, so that has 2 issues out. The Hidden Empire dropped its first issue today, and that was a very good issue, might I add. Very well done. I can't wait for you to read that, Clay, because I'm like,
It's on the list
I
for
want to talk.
tonight.
Good, good. And then there are several good comics dropping next week, I believe. Dark Horse's first issue for all of their High Republic stuff is dropping next week. The Star Wars Resolutions, I think is what it's called. The crazy one-shot issue written by Mark Guggenheim that's going to kind of tease what's coming next for Star Wars comics after the Hidden Empire gets done. And so just a lot of, I think there's in total 8 Star Wars comics dropping next Wednesday. So the goal is for the first episode in December to just kind of tackle everything that dropped in November, so that we can kind of talk about it because we will have no Star Wars show. So, got to talk about something. So yes, that is the plan for the next 2 episodes. So y'all can make sure to check those out. And yeah, I hope everybody enjoys their holiday season because it's coming, and I hope you're prepared. So, with that, Clay, what should we talk about first?
You know what? Let's go ahead and talk about, because it was very, very short. I thought that it may have been a little bit longer, but we were surprised on Saturday with a
Yes.
3-minute short called Grogu and the Dust Bunnies. Um,
Yes.
I watched it at least 10 times to get Amberlyn to sleep. So it was actually very, very soothing. That's why they call it Zen, Grogu, and the Dust Bunnies. Kind of just something to kind of help you relax and whatnot. Of course, this is Studio Ghibli's project that they worked with Lucasfilm on. And this was really, really fun. It was very cute. Uh, it was all 2D animation, of course. Uh, and there wasn't, like I said, there wasn't too much to it. There was no words, there was no nothing. It was just sound, music, cuteness, and it works.
Yeah. No, what's funny is I actually forgot this was coming out on Saturday because I had a lot of stuff to do this weekend. And then um I actually had to sign into my other Disney Plus account because I had the 3-year subscription for Disney Plus and that expired, but now I have Hulu Live TV, which comes with Disney Plus. So basically my Disney Plus profile was like empty. And so it like loaded the Grogu short immediately. And I was like, watch this before we watch Andor this morning. So I have it on, and Matt was like coming downstairs, and he comes in the living room and was like, "This is animated. This is not Andor. What are we watching? Did you like squirrel or something?" And I'm like, "This came out on Saturday, and I forgot about it." So yeah, we watched it this morning. I thought it was super cute. And it's definitely very much along the lines of like the Sounds of Star Wars things that
Yes.
Disney Plus put out. And it just has some fun imagery so that it's not just like a landscape or space you're staring at. It's really just Grogu playing around with dust bunnies. So I can definitely see where it would be very calming for like a kid to watch and stuff. So yeah, I thought it was cute.
I thought it was really fun, and something like animation can get Grogu to, of course, animate more instead of being so
Yeah.
stiff like a puppet. You got to see his ears flop and everything else. He did a little dance and whatnot. Very, very cute and very, very fun. Next we
Yeah.
have. Oh, well,
Sorry, just last thoughts. I really just hope that this is not Studio Ghibli going. Is it Ghibli? Ghibli?
I it's Ghibli.
Ghibli. Okay, Studio Ghibli. I really hope this is not them going, oh, we're not going to do Visions season 2, but we'll give you this. This is something the creators thought up
I
and
hope
could
not. I
be
really
fun.
hope that
I really want them to give us more long form content.
Yeah, same. I would love for them to do an episode on Visions this upcoming year for season 2. But actually, because you brought up Visions, might as well go along with the next story here. And it is, of course, this comes from Star Wars News Net. The Dave Filoni and Kathleen Kennedy met with the Ninth Jedi creators, production IG. It says here that recently it was discovered that Dave Filoni and Kathleen Kennedy met with the chief of Polygon Pictures during a trip to Japan. Now it's come to light that while they were there, they also met with the people involved with production IG, the studio that thrilled anime fans with Star Wars Visions: The Ninth Jedi. A few days after Filoni and Kennedy visited, Shozu John Shioto, the executive producer of Star Wars Resistance, it was learned that they also stopped by on their collaborators' Star Wars Visions for what appeared to have been another meeting, with Filoni leaving an illustration of Ahsoka and Grogu behind as he and Kennedy autographed a portion of the wall. A fan visited the studio, was able to get a snapshot of the illustration, and autographs were which were dated November 11th, 2022. Says here that the untranslated text in the Twitter roughly translates to the following: I took Dave Filoni and Kathleen Kennedy's autograph, saying that they took a picture of it. It says here, given to the recent visit to another Japanese studio, it seems likely that this may have been for business related reasons. Production IG could be involved with the future seasons of Star Wars Vision, or it could be possible that they'll work on another project altogether. The Ninth Jedi director Kenji Kamiyama described his short film as a pilot episode of sorts, setting the stage for a continuation of the story. And should he be involved with these conversations with Lucasfilm again, the opportunity to finish that narrative might soon present itself. However, a follow up to his Vision short would most likely not come until after his next anime film, the New Line cinema production, The Lord of the Rings: The War of the Rohirrim. I don't know if I said that correctly. Sorry, Lord of the Rings fans. Which is well
Rohirrim.
Rohirrim, sorry. Which is well into post production. It's also possible that Lucasfilm spoke with other animation directors at the studio. Volume 1 of Star Wars Visions, of course, is an anthology available to stream exclusively on Disney Plus. Says season 2 is going to arrive spring of 2023. So, what do you think? Do you think that we are going to get a continuation of The Ninth Jedi?
I would love that. It was not my first pick for a continuation. I think there was one other. I can't remember. I'm off the top of my head, y'all. But I think there was one other. Looking, kind of
I
thinking
think
back our
we
conversation.
the conversation that we had, I believe we talked about the village having the because that one
Yeah.
was also wasn't that one up for a Oscar actually? I think it was for at least a
Yes.
nomination. I think that was
Yeah.
one that we
The
wanted to
village. Was
see.
it the Village Bride?
Yes, The Village Bride. Sorry, that's the full title.
Yeah.
That was
Nine.
one that we wanted to see continue, and I know that
Flop and
we
Ocho as well.
yeah, yeah, that was another really fun one.
So. I would be excited no matter what. I think the animation for that one was superb, so I would love to see the studio come back. As far as Star Wars season 2 for Visions, there is one studio from Japan. The rest are from other studios in like France, I believe South Africa, India, and the USA were a couple of them. United Kingdom was another one. So they basically, if they're following along the lines of season 1, they'll have 9 episodes, and in this case, they would all be from a different country. Um, Whereas everything from season 1 was from Japan. So,
Yeah. Now, another small piece of news. This was kind of small, but of course, you have been covering these on Patreon as far as
which will
kind of
be
the
coming
content.
back. in 2 weeks because I'm going to be talking about Rogue Squadron because I just read those and then I found out I wasn't going to be on another podcast that I thought I was reading them for. So now we're just going to jump ahead in the timeline and just talk about Rogue Squadron because they're just great.
So we see here that the Essential Legends Collection Wave 6 has revealed its covers. These are, of course, coming uh, May, or it says here back in August, the tentative release date was April 25th of 2023. The newer reports suggest the books have been pushed back a month and will arrive May 23rd instead. So the three books are Star Wars Yoda,
Star
Dark,
Wars Yoda Dark Rendezvous.
yeah,
And then it's Hard Contact, which is book one of the Republic Commando series, and then Dawn of the Jedi Into the Void. And Dawn of the Jedi Into the Void is actually the first book for Star Wars Legends chronologically. And it dates back several thousand years before the Phantom Menace. And to the point where they don't even have lightsabers, which is why you see, and I'm showing for those on YouTube, I'm showing, or for those on podcast, I'm showing the covers uh on my screen. And so that's why you see in this cover she has a sword instead of a lightsaber because lightsabers hadn't been invented at the time. And so these are kind of just the different ones. From what I remember, I think this is like the area you have to go to like try to do hyperspace. This is like the big building right here, this pyramid thing. But like they basically they're all in one system. And the goal for her brother actually is to kind of demolish the Jedi because uh he wasn't selected to be a Jedi. Or no, I'm sorry, I'm completely doing that wrong. I'm just gonna shut up now. But y'all, it's a pretty good story. It's not my favorite. It does tie into a comic, which is still Dawn of the Jedi. And I know a lot of people actually really like it, which is why it's here. So
I have never read a Star Wars book that took place prior to lightsabers being invented. I will definitely be getting that book.
yeah,
Very,
and it
very
is
interesting.
actually on Audible because it's a recently published book. So the full thing is on Audible, I do believe. Like I know Greg, from Geeks Chasing Squirrels, he asked me about it and was like, yeah, basically people when you're looking at audio editions, you want to look for something that's more than 10 hours when you're looking for Star Wars Legends books. Anything less than 10 hours probably is the abridged audio version. So that's just something to kind of keep an eye out for if you're doing this. Um, Hard Contact, I started this book. I couldn't finish it. I don't know why. I loved Karen Travis's stuff in like the Star Wars Legacy series because she wrote 3 books in that, and I loved her stuff there. I don't know why I don't like this one. Maybe it's the fact that it's clone focused, and I'm like, I want to know characters in the book. And now, granted, there's Jedi in it and stuff. I'm hopefully gonna come back to it, but I'm basically once I record the Rogue Squadron episode, I'm basically gonna be skipping the entire Republic Commando series. The so Yoda Dark Rendezvous, I haven't actually read this one. I'm hoping to get to it with the next wave after Rogue Squadron. But I've heard very good things. It was a filler book. So it was basically something that kind of jumped in when another Star Wars Legends book was canceled. I had seen that on Twitter today, I think yesterday as they were talking about these covers. So, but this is, I'm very confused about the artwork for Yoda Dark Rendezvous because don't you think this looks like one of the promotional shots for Revenge of the Sith?
I believe that it is. It's from the
They
scene
listed
where
an
they are it's when they are attacking the clones at the Jedi Temple, him and Obi-Wan. And it's I know the exact scene and everything because I remember that trailer coming out when I was a kid and I was like, "Oh snap." Like Yoda's gonna like be getting into the fight. It's gonna be crazy. Like, yeah, that is the exact scene. It's the exact one. So it
so
looks like
maybe it maybe she just does portraits of people that have been on screen and then just kind of makes them a little more whimsical,
Yeah,
maybe? Because that's
so
what this looks like here.
so I guess her style of art could be very similar to that of it's his style is way more whimsical in the sense of artsy would be oh shoot is it David Mack, I think. Yes, it's David Mack is the artist that was on Jessica Jones. He's done a lot of different things.
Yeah, right here.
Uh, so yeah. So I would say they are very similar
Yeah.
in these styles that they do. So yeah, I assume that she took a still of Yoda, recreated it, and again just made it very whimsical in the sense of the background and everything else.
Yeah. That's what this kinda looks like. The rest are very much like a cartoonish, very, like, 2D drawing type thing.
Yeah.
So I'm excited. I One of my goals after Christmas is to kind of fill in, what I'm missing for Essential Legends collection, at least with, like, Rogue Squadron and, some of the after Return of the Jedi ones. I may pick up Yoda Dark Rendezvous just because I grabbed Shatterpoint. So we'll see. I know these are still having printing issues to my knowledge, which sucks. But yeah, the and Star Wars News Net points it out. These are very wildly different from the covers that they have previously done for the Essential Legends collection, which is good to see because they're involving other artists. So whatever your preference is, I mean, there will always be the mass market paperbacks. So
True. Very, very true. Uh Next, let's go ahead and move to, well, I guess we only have the last one about Kathleen Kennedy making some comments towards the High Republic. This apparently comes from the art book that just recently came out.
you mean the one that's
Katie
still here
has
because I forgot to take it downstairs?
yes, so Katie has it there. Um in the it says here in the new book, The Art of Star Wars: The High Republic Volume 1, the following paragraph has was included when talking about the transition from the written media of live action storytelling. Uh and it says if this is a quote from Kathleen Kennedy, if the High Republic gamble succeeded, the story anchoring the new interconnected multimedia initiative stood to open up a new storytelling opportunities beyond the page, allowing publishing to evolve into an incubator for new characters and era that could later appear in games or on screen, or role reversal for the department typically tasked with sustaining interest between tentpole projects and big screen movies that nevertheless honor the genesis of all stories in film, games, and television. Kathleen Kennedy added the following tease regarding the time periods on screen future. It says it's all started with the word. So I saw a lot of Star Wars fans quoting this on Twitter. It's all starts with the word. What what does that even mean? What word?
You could do several different things, like the word to like confirm it's gonna go to the big screen, the word like Star Wars in general, like that's what it all starts with. And the article from the direct, because I've looked at all of the art in the book. I haven't actually read the book. Um, but it goes on to kind of talk about like all the different things from the authors and Michael Sigling, who's the publishing executive on the High Republic project. Basically talking about how they wanted to kind of build their own corner of the universe to tell their stories versus it going to the big screen. So it can be kind of controversial and counterintuitive for the authors if this were to go to the big screen, because obviously you want to see your characters, but you want to see it in the way you want it done. Um, and so I think knowing they're a part of IP, and I think we kind of got into this with Tales of the Jedi, especially, okay, at some point something's of mine's gonna go to the big screen and it's not gonna be the way I wanted it to be.
It's gonna get retconned in some aspect. Now, this will be very interesting because we've always talked about how Star Wars is definitely not somebody who adapts content and then creates it onto screen. They
That's the whole reason they chose to go away from Star Wars Legends, is because they wanted to create their own stories and kind of go along the lines of it. Sorry, I keep
well,
interrupting you. I'm gonna shut up
no,
now.
no, no. It's just that's exactly where I was going with this. So, in the exact words of Kathleen Kennedy, this would be a role reversal. These books would then be adapted. And I feel like this is kind of the next step. We've talked about this before in other discussions. Now, I completely understand what you could do. You could create a brand new High Republic and create a movie, but that would in turn just discredit everything that you've worked on in future books, in past books, and the current books, in the sense of saying, hey, this is all continuity. And that decision would definitively say, no, it's not all continuity, it's all content, and we're just trying to push that content, right?
What if when it went to the big screen, the three phases, so we already know phase 3 is supposed to start next fall at some
Yes.
point. We don't have an exact date. We know it's supposed to be next fall. What if they had gone and said, okay, we're going to cut publishing off at phase 2 and we're going to take everything they gave us and we're basically going to turn phase 3 of the High Republic into a trilogy of movies.
Say that one more time so my brain can process
So
that.
okay, pretend they haven't announced anything to do with phase 3 yet. What if they said, okay, for phase 3 of the High Republic, surprise! It's instead of all of these things, you're going to have one TV show, you're going to have a trilogy of movies, and you're going to have a season of shorts. Shorts for the middle grade, TV series for the young adults, and then the adult books go into a movie.
Okay, so
What if
you're
they'd done
saying
that?
completely wipe out the idea of just publishing books for wave 3 and then create other content for that phase 3, but it's still being the exact story that they want to tell. Just put it in
Yeah.
different media.
That's not going to
I
happen because
I
we know, but
exactly, but I would be so torn because of like this is the probably the most gatekeepy thing I would say on this podcast, but Katie has definitely turned me into a book nerd. Um I I loved books as a kid, but I only loved reading the books that I loved to read. I didn't like reading the books that, I was forced to read, whether it be from my parents or school or whatever.
Mhm.
And this it would all be the same. Like I couldn't make an argument to somebody who is like, this is the best thing that they could do. I wouldn't be able to make that debate because I know it's something that I still want. I still want, you made the comments last week of jokingly saying, oh, you don't want Ryan Reynolds to be Elzar Man. That idea popped in my head again the other day, and I was just like, stop it, Clay, stop it. But but just being able to see these characters on the big screen would be fun because just the same way people had to get used to the idea of Luke Skywalker only coming to life in a book after so many years, I I guess I would have to just be okay with them taking a beloved character from a book and putting him on the small screen or the big screen. Uh, but I think it's hard to say because we have when I say we, it's me and Katie. We have been very straightforward with our thoughts towards what the production of Lucasfilm and the relationship with Disney has been in the past few years. There has been a lot of people throwing a lot of nonsense hate towards Kathleen Kennedy over the past few years. But recently, through some of the decisions and the lack thereof of content and a like clear path to whatever they're wanting to do, it's really hard for me to say I want the High Republic right now because under Kathleen Kennedy, I don't know when it would happen.
That's the thing, right? We want to know what happened to Bur Yaga. We want to know what happened to Skier. We want to know what happened to Vernestra. We want answers, and I don't want to wait that long. But like, and obviously, once again, we know Phase 3 is coming. We know Phase 3 is coming in publishing form. But at the same time, you go, okay, you could have easily set that up, I feel like, where you had all of these things happen. You took 30 minutes at the beginning of a movie, or you even did a Disney Plus special where it was like, here's what has happened so far in the High Republic. And you get to that point, you do a prequel. For more information, check out the High Republic and then show all the books on screen and everything. And then you just jump right into it. It would have been a perfect stepping point to actually use the High Republic in a meaningful fashion where you could have said, okay, I'm going to give it a jumping board with all of this. I don't have to worry about any other part of canon. I don't have to worry about it at all. I can just do this. I worry with the High Republic being definitively phase 1, phase 2, phase 3. If you're going to use the High Republic, I don't want to see it adapted. I want to see new things on the screen. I don't want to see an adaptation. So that's my biggest thing with it.
I can agree with that. I think you could easily uh either before Light of the Jedi adapt some stuff
Mm-hmm.
with our three friends very
Yep.
young in their days of Padawans being uh Stellan, Elzar, and Avar. I think that could very much work. Or if you wanted to even kind of get people really interested in the High Republic books, you dive in deep right between Light of the Jedi and
You tackle that year long period between that and the Rising Storm.
the Rising Storm. Exactly. You introduce Bell and how depressed he is with losing his
Mm-hmm.
master, and you're like, wait, he lost his master? What? That would force you to
Yeah.
go read Light of the Jedi and everything else. So I think you could very easily kind of dabble into the High Republic without touching the stories that the books have already touched on.
That's my biggest thing, right? Is I don't think you need to do anything twice, which is like some of my issues with like, oh, okay, we have a junior novelization, then we have novelization, and then we have the movie or the show. As much as I like having novelizations, I don't think you need 3 different novelizations. So
True.
call me what you will, a hypocrite or whatever. I don't care. But that's my opinion. Is I talked about with Tales of the Jedi. I want to see these authors respected because I value their work so much,
Yeah.
and I appreciate what they've brought to storytelling for Star Wars. So, and that's never gonna happen. Eventually, at some point, it will be adapted. Who am I kidding? But, anyways,
Now,
um.
before we move, oh well, go ahead. Go ahead.
Oh no, did you have one more thing on the High Republic?
Well, talking about the High Republic, because I know I had told you yesterday that I was catching up on a lot of my reading for comics.
Yep.
I have read both issues 1 and 2 of the High Republic in the 2022. So are we moving that? You said to December, right? We're going to be talking about all of
Yeah, I
those.
think we're gonna move that to December and just kind of that's gonna be a big comic episode. Um,
Cool.
because we still have 3 more pieces of news. And I want to go to bed at some point. I'm lazy.
Okay.
Um, so y'all know me. I'm an old person. I like to go to bed. I don't even have a kid yet. Like, geez. Okay. So in the High Republic, plan of events, the young adult anthology, which has a young adult short story from every author, has been delayed from July 25th, 2023 to September 5th, 2023. And this is thanks to Star Wars Books on Twitter, uh, Star Wars Books and Comics, and Chris Worms actually came in the comments and said no longer the first look into Phase 3 because it has stories from Phase 1, uh, and then I think there's 2 in Phase 2, and then the rest are set between Phase 1 and Phase 3, like in the time zone line of things. But it is actually the first look into Phase 3 still because Phase 3 isn't set to launch until November 2023. So there's that. And just as a reminder, Phase 1 short story collection, which is all of the stories from Star Wars Insider that relate to the High Republic Phase 1, uh, it is coming in a hardcover edition and it will be releasing December 6th of this year. So you can check it out there.
Very, very cool. Uh, Actually, we just got a comment here. Sarah saying, "Hi, all. Just watched Andor. Wow, we are getting closer to the review, Sarah. I promise it won't be too long."
You know.
What else do we have on the docket for news?
So this one broke my heart a little bit because y'all know how much I love timelines. Star Wars Timelines was originally set to come out in November of this year, and it was delayed originally to February 7th, 2023. It has now been further delayed to April 25th, 2023.
This one hurts me because I'm the one that's always asking, when did this happen or when did that
Yep.
happen? How much time is between this? This is a book that I need to have tattooed on my stomach for reference all the time. So this one does hurt. I am looking forward to this. I definitely need to set up a pre-order so that way I know for sure, even if it's delayed again, I won't have to worry about it. And I know that
Yep.
as soon as it comes out, I will get it.
And I still want to, we're gonna have to plan this. I still want to have the competition where we like hang a bed sheet over these, and then I have to put all of the adult and young adult books in chronological order. I would love to do that. I would like to challenge myself. Just saying. Um and so the last piece of Star Wars news comes today. And we all know the Return of the Jedi 40th anniversary is next year. We're still hoping and crossing our fingers, or at least I am, for return of From a Certain Point of View, whatever you want to call it. But they did From a Certain Point of View Strikes Back for Empire Strikes Back. So I'm thinking Return of From a Certain Point of View is the best title. But StarWars.com has started the celebrate the 40th anniversary uh quote in style. And it will be it's a series of comic one-shots that celebrate the 40th anniversary of Return of the Jedi. So the first one will actually be, and I'm gonna share my screen so that y'all can see this glorious cover art of one Jabba the Hutt. Uh and the first one is Jabba's palace. So, and it's got Jabba with the MD droid, and it is actually written by Mark Guggenheim, who is making a strong appearance in all of Star Wars because he's writing the big one shot next week. He's been writing Han Solo and Chewbacca. Um, and I'm sure he's going to get, like, I think he's writing a couple of the Yoda issues as well. The Yoda
Yes.
one comes out next week too.
Yes,
So
it
that is
does.
another thing. So we have Mark Guggenheim, the cover art, not just the cover art, apparently. Is it the cover art? No, the cover art for this one is done by Ryan Brown, and then it is illustrated by Alessandro Miracolo. Uh, and it's just going to kind of take you through Jabba's palace, showcasing you the scum and villainy. And then there are two variants so far. One is in a very similar style, I guess, to the Mandalorian comic adaptation of season one, where you got Boba Fett on the cover, and then the next one is just another one of Jabba with um, all of his minions and such. The Boba Fett cover is by Alex Maleev, and the connecting variant cover is by Lee Garbett. And so that issue will be coming to shelves in February.
Going to correct you on that pronunciation. It's uh Lee Garbet
Ah,
is
excuse
the
me.
artist. Yes.
I do
Uh,
apologize. I
no,
always am happy to be corrected, y'all, in a nice fashion, like Clay just did. I always know I'm gonna garbage something, so
he is a fabulous artist. You can hear me and Chris gush all about him in a episode of World's Finest True Believers when we talked about Skyward. So go check that. Shameless plug.
yeah. We're all for shameless plugs here, y'all. Shameless plugs. Hello, all 5 of you watching. We appreciate you all. Okay, so are we ready to jump into a review of episode 11 of Andor?
Yes, we are. So I will tell you this. I was only going to plan to do it on the day of the finale. Uh,
Okay.
but for the first time in about 3 or 4 months, I stayed up all night and watched this episode.
I
I
was
feel
wondering why you were so up so early.
I feel terrible. Uh,
I wonder why.
because I will say this: there was some of the like slower parts of this episode. I was just like
No,
and dozing off and
I got
closing
up
my
at
eyes.
4:30 this morning and still was feeling that.
But I will say this: um, I have seen so many titles today. Um, and I just saw one when looking at stuff on Mastodon of people having similar titles of this on articles and whatnot, saying Andor, this is what Star Wars was always meant to be, is one title that I saw that really stood out to me. And
You want to
everybody
know the
has
first? You want to know
oh,
the first sentence of my review?
what was that?
Andor is slowly but surely confirming it is the cream of the crop for the future of Star Wars television.
It is. It's so good. This uh, Andor is a beautiful surprise. And when I say surprise, I did not exactly know what to expect from Tony Gilroy. Now, I have seen the Bourne movies. I understand the type of film Andor was supposed to be. Never did I ever think, because there is so many debates about this. I've had debates with Travis Snell. We've talked about it in the GUA chats. I've talked about it in my place of work. Can Star Wars normies, I guess general audience, can they sustain a show? When I say that, I mean like, can they stick with the show of Star Wars or a movie that doesn't involve lightsabers? And people are like, "Oh, well, Rogue One." I'm like, "Yeah," but everybody talks about the Darth Vader scene at the very end. That's the first thing they talk about before they talk about the rest of the movie. This, I have yet to see a lightsaber, and we'll talk about more about that later because you shared an article right before we jumped on here that I do not agree with whatsoever. Um,
I
but
I don't agree with it, but I think it's very likely.
you do.
I do.
Oh, I need to learn more about this. Um, But I want to ask you, because I keep seeing the TikToks. I keep seeing all of them. They're like, this is the worst like viewed show. Nobody's watching this show. And I guess we're on the right side of our algorithms when it comes to Twitter because we see everybody talking about this show, right? But apparently these numbers, and I guess that's a part of news that we didn't really cover. Um, Andor is
Yeah.
being chopped up to FX, and
Episodes 1 and 2 only, which I
yes,
wish
yes,
they would have done through episode 3 because that I think would draw more people in because
I
episode 1
do
and
agree.
2 kind of staggers and episode 3 is where it all comes together and just is like bam.
I agree. I agree. But this show is a show that doesn't have anything to do with Jedi. I don't even think they've been mentioned at all.
You have like relics in Luthen's shop, But yes,
Yes,
they haven't
yes.
really been mentioned. And Sarah's still in the chat. She said Andor takes Star Wars to a realistic level, sans Jedi and lightsabers. And I think maybe that's the problem with the viewership. And not necessarily the sans Jedi and sans lightsabers part, but just the, oh, okay, we knew this was a spy show going into it. We
Yeah.
knew how grungy this was going to get. And maybe that wasn't just the genre for people to pick up. Like, and I know for me, especially with books and even movie stuff, like you tell me something is a horror X, I'm not gonna pick it up. Like at all. It's just like, and there's been some points where I just will pop something on television. I'm like, okay, this is interesting. And then I look at the guide, and I'm like, oh, this is a horror movie. You know what this is? What the fuck? Like, so and maybe that will be the benefit because it's going to be airing on channels. And goodness knows we can all remember the days of where our mom and dads just were like, put something on the channel and they would go to the tried and true channels of like FTX and ABC and turn it on. Maybe that's what gets somebody into this where they go, okay, this is interesting. And they sit down and watch it and stuff. And they just are like, oh, yeah, where can I watch the rest of this? When's the next episode?
So Sarah also says it's a different perspective within the universe, and that's very
It's
much
the little
true.
people perspective.
And I will say this, compared to the other shows that have become very, very popular on FX, Andor fits right into that genre.
Yep, it sure does.
And I think that hopefully people will stumble upon the first 2 episodes and they'll want to go watch this show. I
Yep,
think it is a show that is worth watching outside of being a Star Wars fan. It is beautifully shot,
yep.
beautifully written, and it is there is jaw dropping moments. Luthen, like we thought he was a badass with the what have I sacrificed speech. He
This
got
whole
the
like
skills.
ship spinning with the lightsabers and stuff, like
He's got the skills to back all of that up, and he proved it today. It's amazing. And also, I just want to say this. I think I put it up earlier this morning. Let me share my screen. Same energy.
yep.
Same
Poor B2
energy.
emo.
B2 broke my heart this morning. The
Yep.
way that he was just shaking, very inside of himself, not wanting to do anything without Andor's mother around. Like, it just broke my heart. And I don't know, just something about him. I was like, that's Wally. That's totally Wally there. Um, and I love him. I protect him at all costs, people. I don't know what
Yep.
this last episode of Andor is going to entail, but if B dies, I'm done. I'm absolutely done.
I really think, and you're gonna hate me for this, I think he's gonna go down in flames, and that's gonna be the catalyst because the Empire didn't take out Marva. The Empire takes out B2 emo.
No, don't tell me that. Don't tell me
Yeah,
that.
I think it's gonna happen.
Oh,
Sarah said
no.
you can keep the Naboo fighter, Luthen ship, and then like the shocked face. Like, oh yeah, that's a good ship.
That
Honka junk, but it's got the Han Solo modifications for you.
it it was a great scene, by the way. The way that
Yes.
he played it off. Let's just jump to that scene just real quick. Um, so this is after, I believe, the conversation that he had with his assistant, correct? After she had
So
uh
it's like at the same point. So the assistant goes, okay, how like okay, how did it go? And he's like still talking shop terms because obviously comms can be hacked depending on the frequency you're on, they can be listened into. So it just kind of he wants to kind of keep it generic so that if people are listening, he's not going to get caught. And so they keep it shop term, and basically Luthen's like, that went well. I got one more stop to make. And Cleo's like, no, you don't. It's not worth it. That item's that item's not good. And the way the conversation flows, that makes me think, oh, okay, he's going to Ferrex
Yeah.
because he wants to make sure, like, he thinks Cassian is still a very good resource to have, and that he will come to fruition and stuff. So I think we're gonna see Luthen on Ferrex, and I think that's what that conversation was about. But yeah, Luthen basically cuts the channel as soon as he sees the Cantwell class cruiser.
Yes. And
And the Cantwell class cruiser, uh, it's an arrestor cruiser, and it was first seen in Solo, and it was one of the original designs for a Star Destroyer, for A New Hope, Empire Strikes Back, and Return of the Jedi. And they decided not to use that, and the designer's name was Chris Cantwell. So it appears in a video in Solo, a Star Wars story. It's very short, like one of the recruiting videos. So it's never seen like in action. So this was the first time it's really like played out to see what it can do. But the three discs it has are all three tractor beams so that it
okay.
can truly pull somebody in.
Yeah. And we see that the Empire locks him in on the tractor beam, and they're asking him for his codes and everything else. He gets his AI to throw in a fake thing of codes. They are going through, and he is just acting it all up like, oh, I'm a one
Yep.
man show here. I'm so sorry. I have to do all of this. Really playing it out. And then when they lock him in with all three,
Yep.
he shoots out, I don't even know the exact terminology, but he basically shoots shrapnel into the
Yeah.
largest tractor beam and completely demolishes it. At this point, I was like, holy crap, he's actually going to try to fight this thing.
Yep.
I don't know what's going to happen right now. Um After that, TIE fighters started to show up. He started to be a badass and shoot them all down. Holy crap.
One man show my ass. Who's helping you?
But I want to say this. There is a beautiful shot immediately after he is thrown into hyperspace, after he thrusts into hyperspace. The camera shows the commander of the ship from the
Yep.
outside of the glass, and you see the reflection of the two puffs of smoke that used to be TIE fighters and
Yep.
the now debris of what was a tractor beam. That shot is so good.
Absolutely stunning. Benjamin Carson, I think, is the one who directed this, and he did a phenomenal job.
Yes, he did. He did such a great job. It is so so good. Um but everything else in this, there
Benjamin
wasn't
Karen, excuse me. Sorry.
okay. There wasn't too much else in this episode. I mean, there was the other scene that just shows how batshit Luthen is
Mm,
the scene with Saw. Uh
yep.
and him basically throwing like Saw's paranoia like to
Yep.
a whole new level.
Oh, I could be ISB.
Yes. I love this. I love the scene more so because it then grew Saw's character to a statue that we know him as.
Yep.
We know him to be the very paranoid one, that is the ruthless one. And yeah, we assume that he is there at the point that we saw him the first time in the show. But for Luthen to just do that, pull a gun and everything else, like the scene got really tense really fast. Like it was
Yeah.
smooth talking, and then all of a sudden, like my heart was racing, and I was like, "Holy crap!" I was awake right then and there. When the blaster was pulled, I was like, "Holy crap, this is insane." But I want to go back to the article that you posted. I didn't read it because I just saw the article title, and I was like, "This is BS. I'm not going to even touch it with a 10-foot pole." So when Luthen went to visit Saw, he was searched and somebody pulled out this thing and
Which
he
looks
didn't know
a
what it
heck of a
was.
lot like a Wookiee's lightsaber.
It does, but in my mind, again, this may be just me not realizing how big Wookiee's hands are. That thing looks huge.
And I mean, we all know that a lightsaber construction is the way a Jedi wants it to be built. And speaking like in terms of like, oh, okay, he didn't necessarily, maybe he threw away his lightsaber and maybe put it together of parts that he could find, because lightsabers were destroyed, parts are slim pickings. So he could have done that. We already know he has a kyber crystal, so
Oh no, you're putting the pieces together way too quickly.
I don't like it because I have loved what they're doing without Jedi and everything. I just saw this when I was looking up. I was literally looking up images, y'all, and it's this article from Dextero, and I didn't read the article because I was like, I had the same thought this morning, and like I kind of put it together as I was writing my review and everything, and I'm like, well, fuck, like I don't want it to happen, but it very well could be. So yeah,
So,
I
who
guess
exactly are they saying it might be? Like, it is does he just not have a name and his name is Luthen, or is he like a Jedi pretending to be this individual? Like, are there any kind of conspiracies out there if this is a lightsaber?
basically I think I'm just kind of scanning it. Um, they said basically the guy was like, I don't know what this is, and like he like clearly in the picture you see him going like, I don't know what this is, like what the fuck is this? And it's checked by him, and he's like, oh yeah, I need that. It's nothing. Like when I first saw it, I was like, oh okay, it's like telescope. I don't know. But honestly, I mean, the Jedi are all but extinct at this point, right? And at this point, nobody's been to Jeddah. Like Saw's base on Jeddah comes later. So we know that's not a part of the conversation because they're on Segra Milo. And then it definitely looks like a lightsaber. It looks like a really old one. And being an antiquities collector, maybe he's able to do that. We know from the comics, okay, a lot of people were looking at like force artifacts and everything. He might have found one being an antiquities dealer and gone, okay, I'm going to grab this.
Okay, so honestly, if it's that, I'm okay with that. If he is
He's a
if
force sensitive.
if he's force sensitive and is a Jedi in hiding, don't like it. But if he just so happened to come across this lightsaber and know that it's a lightsaber and then say, "Hey, with my line of work within the rebellion, this weapon could be useful to me." I will take it. I will take that. That is
I
fine.
think that's a good compromise because we know Moff Gideon or Moff Gideon in Mandalorian, not a force sensitive, uses the dark saber. Mandalorians use the dark saber, not necessarily force sensitive. I think if we get Jedi, I'm gonna be pissed. Now, the other theory about who Luthen could be, because obviously, you know, Luthen is his name right now, but may get some hate for this. But I follow Eckart's Ladder, and somebody tweeted at him and was like, "I'm fully on board with the theory that Luthen is actually Aaron Kraken, the legendary intelligence journal of the Alliance." And if you have read the Rogue Squadron books, then you kind of know a little bit more about Kraken because right now there's not really a whole lot on him other than he's a douche. But you can see this picture of Aaron Kraken in the Millennium Falcon in Return of the Jedi, and then you see this picture of Luthen.
I'm looking at it now. They do look alike.
And we already know they've recast Colonel Wolf Yularen.
Yeah.
So
I it's a stretch. It's a big stretch.
he is a brilliant, intelligent mind right now. Clearly.
Yeah.
Um, in Legends, I don't know anything about Kraken as a canon character, but in Legends, he does actually have a son that does pilot for Rogue Squadron at some point. So maybe I think it's completely possible and kind of would explain maybe some of the decisions that he's making of, hey, I get to know everything. You get to know what I want you to know.
Yeah. Very true. Very true. Um in this episode also, we get the tragic news that Andor's mother has passed away, has died. We kind of saw this coming. She did not look well in the last few episodes that she was in. Um, I feel like her conversations with Andor were very much in preparation of this happening. Uh, the whole thing with her saying, I think a couple episodes ago, like near the very beginning of the season actually, of her like, oh, I am the rebellion, it's all in my head, like it's all me,
Yep.
and if I'm strong here, then they can't take that away from me and stuff. Like that is very much like a send off, like, hey,
Yep.
they can't touch me. um
And I hate this because Fiona Shaw, incredible. She did incredible work in the show for the little time she had, and I wanted more of her.
I can never get her character from Harry Potter out of my head when I see her. um
We talked no, Zach and I talked about this because I could not get her out of it either. But episode 7 came around for Andor, and I was like, I'm sold. Like, I need her to stay.
she is a great performer. I loved her in this role. It makes me sad, especially the bouncing back and forth between her and B2 emo,
Yep.
uh, and just her absence with B2 emo. Uh, it it made it that much more powerful. Her not being there. Uh, but this is a pivotal point in the Empire's plan to be catching Andor,
Yep. Because they
because
still don't know he was in prison.
yes, they don't know that they actually had possession of him, but they believe that if he knows that she is dead, that he will come back, and then that's when they will catch him. Um and it's really kind of crazy because their intentions did not go the way they had planned, and Andor just happened to find out off of a whim in the
Yes,
most
because he's
sad
calling
way
B.
possible.
He's trying to call Bix
Yeah.
because he doesn't know Bix was kidnapped. And so the call is intercepted by the one of her helpers, I guess. And so they go into all this information and stuff, and he's like, yeah, tell my mom I'm fine. I will be back when I can. Blah, blah, blah. And he's like, Cass, I'm sorry. And Cass is like told him like 3 times, no names, no names. He's like, sorry, your mom's dead. And we don't really get or like Diego Luna pulls off a heck of a performance at this part where he's like, shit, like what do I do? Like he hangs up and he's talking he like listens to Melshi, but the whole time on Diego Luna's face, he's just pulling off like this defeated son, like he has no idea what to do. What like how do I go back to my mom? Like or how do I go back? What do I do now? And stuff. And Melshi's like, we need to split up because it's dangerous for us to stick together, and somebody needs to tell everybody else what's going on.
Yeah.
So they're agreeing to split up, and that's how the episode ends. And Luna's heck of a performer, like pulls it off completely. I love it.
Again, the cinematography in this episode is outstanding. like the sad boy vibes that Diego is giving off looking into the sun at the end of this episode. Like you felt it. It was all there. Uh
Yep.
and I love the very small sense of uh a relationship that him and Melshi have at this point, because at the very beginning of this episode, you see them on the cliff
Yep.
and they're hiding from a TIE fighter. I don't know if it's exactly a TIE fighter. I can't remember
I think it
the.
was an interceptor.
Okay. They're hiding from it, and you just hear Andor, oh, it's leaving, it's leaving, it's leaving, it's leaving. And it's like, don't tell me it's leaving. Like, I don't want to climb back up. And right after it says I don't want to climb back up, it has this bird eye view shot of how far they are from the
Yep.
ground. And I'm just thinking, dude, if you fall, you die. There is no climbing back up here. Um, but I love how they were gonna steal a ship, didn't go perfectly as planned.
Yeah, they're like,
Uh
oh, it's a quad jumper, and like the quad jumpers in the Mandalorian that like drove me back to that. Or no, the quad jumper in Force Awakens.
yeah.
That's what it like compacted. It was like, oh, that's a hunk of junk, and Mel, she's like, well, what else we got? Like, and so that kind of like called me back there. But yeah, that was kind of funny, and I love the fact that we got ships, we got a cruiser, and we got aliens. We got fucking aliens, y'all. Narkinians, who are fishermen who are basically mad at the Empire for basically destroying their fishing grounds for all these prisons and stuff. And Cassian and Melcher are like, we're prisoners. We had nothing to do with that. We hate the Empire. And then the Narkinian guy who's speaking basic finally puts it together and he's like, oh, yeah, y'all can live. Where are y'all going? And Cassian and Melcher are like, wait, what? You're serious? Like, we're free? And he's like, where are y'all going? And so Cassian says, Nemos, Nymos, which was the beach planet he was on before he got, when he got captured. So they head back there, and I love, I'm like, okay, did everybody on this planet just trust enough to just not have doors on their hotel room? Like, how the fuck did he get in there?
The way that he just steals an entire safety lockbox full of what looks like hundreds of credits, two blasters, like
And the
it,
manifesto.
and yeah, and a manifesto. Like it is wild to me. Like he starts to open the manifesto on accident and it like starts to play and
Yep.
he like shuts it real quick. Um this was a lot of great non-verbal acting here. Uh but yeah, I'm really surprised at how like luxury kind of just makes you completely ignorant to
Yep.
your safety
Yep.
basically.
It was hysterical to me because I was like, well, what's gonna happen? Is he gonna get caught? Is he gonna go back to prison? And no, he just scurries on out the door, like no ifs, ands, or buts about it. And the doorway, because you can see the guy sleeping in bed, and he's just snoring. It's one of the species from Obi-Wan Kenobi, who's played by Seth Meyer, I think. You know, like the guy with like the worms on his nose.
Yes.
It was one of those guys. And he's like snoozing and stuff. And Andor just takes this heavy safety deposit box and just runs right out the door. And the doorway is bright, light, and airy. So, and then they end up calling Ferrex so Cassian can get a message to his mother. And then we already talked about that. I
Yeah.
think the last part to talk about is probably the most iconic of the whole episode, which is uh Mon Mothma and Vel.
Yes.
And oh my gosh, like that just brought up like so many things of like how I feel about what I want for my future kids and stuff. And just sitting in there and you see Lita and her friends, and we don't see the elder, but Mon Mothma tells us that there is a Chandrilan elder in there, basically coaching them through the chants of old Trandrillan customs. And everything, and basically, like, Mon Mothma explains, "I didn't do any of this. Perrin didn't do any of this. She went and found the Elder. She wants to do all this stuff." And I'm like, "Shit." Like,
And
fuck.
even Vel was just like, "Wait, are you serious right now? Like, is that really happening in the next room?"
Yeah.
And she was like, "Yeah, no, I had nothing to do with it. It was all her."
And you can see in the way they dressed O'Reilly, Mon Mothma looks like she hasn't slept in days.
Yeah.
Like, she looks disheveled. She has, like, that no makeup, deep sunk eye look kind of thing going on, and she's just like, how do you get past that where you're like, I could make a choice to save probably my entire family's life because you know if Mon Mothma gets caught with these accounting errors, Perrin's gonna go down for it. Well, Perrin might not go down for it because he has all the friends with like Palpatine's inner circle.
Yeah.
But Perrin could go down for it. Lita is definitely going down for it because she's gonna get held captive and probably tortured so Mon Mothma will talk. Because Mon Mothma still has to make an appearance as a senator.
Yep.
It's just like she has to be there and stuff. So it's like I could make this decision, which I don't want to do, to benefit to make this match, even though Davo said, "Oh, I'm not looking for a match. I'm just looking for an introduction." But Mon Mothma knows, okay, he wants a match. That's what
Mhm.
he really wants. And I can make this match, which my daughter wants anyways, but I don't want that for her. But if I make this choice, then I'm making a better choice for the entire galaxy. It's like, fucking hell.
I promise you. Well, I guess I can't really promise you this because I'm only 2 months into parenting. I don't think it's that dramatic. I don't think I have to
I
make any
know it's not
decisions that are gonna save the world or the
I know
galaxy.
it's not that dramatic, but like I want to parent completely different from my mother. And my mom knows this.
100%.
And like she and I have had words about it because when your mom calls you at 1:30 a.m. and you're in the middle of a college bar, I'll leave it there. Because there's a lot more than that, y'all. And my mom knows all this. I have given her plenty of shit for it. So, uh, it's the wine talking, and I'm out of it. Thank goodness. Um, so it's just like you think about that, and I am the most anxious person I know, right? And so it's just like you think about this, and I have like dreams about my kids and stuff, and it's like frightened. So
It's crazy. And the way sh I love this scene because I have seen many sides of Mon Mothma in this show. She has shown badassery. She has shown that she could stick up for herself. And now I have seen a slightly broken Mon Mothma.
yeah,
She her her facial acting in this, the eyes watering, everything. I think it worked so perfect in this scene. Because you were right. She has the weight of the galaxy on her shoulders in these pivotal moments uh of this really really hard time, and especially with the communication but not communication with Luthen,
yep,
and not really knowing how he's going to be going about things because they had that really intense conversation of like, hey, he's going to do whatever he needs to do, and if that means,
yeah.
letting some people
You're
down, he's
screwed.
exactly. And we even see Vel go to his assistant, and like we see how much she is like
They
ready
don't
to
get
like,
along at all.
no. Vel is I love Vel because she's like, even all primmed up and dressed up. She looks like she's all ready to like
Yep,
get a beat down on somebody.
yep.
Absolutely love it. Uh but this episode was great. I absolutely love this episode.
Yeah, I do think there's a lot of slow moments, but it's necessary for the tension that's going to play out in the season finale. And
Yes.
I'm telling you what, I'm gonna be really pissed if we're gonna get some cliffhangers like High Republic in this shit. Because with 2.5 years to go until season 2, I'm like, okay, we need to make sure things are wrapped up. Like, I know there's still gonna be tension with Mon Mothma
Wait, when
because
are
she's
they
got to get
planning on
another
releasing
2 years.
season 2?
They're starting filming, I think, next month. I haven't seen any confirmation on that, but I think they're starting filming next month. And so they've already like predicted the production times and everything. They're predicting they're going to be in production, not even like pre-production to post-production or pre-production to production. Like production will be 14 to 16 months long.
Oh my god. It's going to
Yeah.
take just as long as the first season.
Yep. So they're looking at like fall 2024 for release,
God
probably.
damn.
Yeah.
Jesus, that's insane.
Yeah. So I'm like, I know there's gonna be tension with Mon Mothma, but we need to know if B2 emo lives and all these other people. We need to know if Val and Cinta live, for crying out loud. Like all these things. Like I don't like cliffhangers. I need there's to be some tension, but enough to where I'm not like, fuck you. You know how long this break is going to be. Like, why are you doing this to me? So yeah.
Yeah. I I hope that because I can't expect them to not have a cliffhanger, you know. Uh
There's going to
I
be a cliffhanger.
I just hope that it has enough to because here's the thing. I was expecting this episode to be a little bit longer. This episode maybe breaks about 30 minutes.
Was
Maybe
it?
I think that if you
I
actually
didn't pay
look,
any attention.
so it breaks with credits, it's 45:35, but before credits, you're looking at just about 39 minutes, like almost exactly.
So it's
Uh
probably the shortest episode.
yeah. It's a very short episode. I really hope we get like nearing an hour for
Yeah.
that finale. Because one thing we forgot to mention, well, Terlik showed up here at the very last minute here on this review, says, I guess just think of the season as a long film and the gap is not so bad. Telric, I'll say this. I get what you're saying, but that has been probably one of the biggest criticisms of almost every Disney Plus production, not just Star Wars. That's even on the Marvel side too. Is, oh, just think of it as a big movie, and it doesn't necessarily work all that well.
You made it as a show. I'm not gonna think of it as a film because you are bringing it to me as a show.
Yeah,
And now, in some cases, I can see that where like Falcon and the Winter Soldier, that was a long film. There was no reason that needed to be a TV show.
yeah, for sure.
So, but like
But
most of them, it's show.
I will say this though, Tellerick, the fact that we are going to have the Mandalorian, Ahsoka, I can then bridge the gap with another viewing of Obi-Wan and another viewing of Andor. I think I could get to 2024, at least January 2024, with a good amount of Star Wars content, you know?
What is supposed to come out next fall for Star Wars? Because right now we have Bad Batch January 4th, and then we have
Mandalorian February.
Mandalorian, Mandalorian February, and then supposedly we have Visions in spring 2023.
Yeah.
Acolyte is filming now, so there's no way they're going to be done in time for a fall release. So
I think
are we going to
that'll
have
be
another
pushed.
Mandalorian show? It's filming in secret?
I mean, there's always the well, no, they would have to be working on that now. The
And
supposed
Ahsoka,
season 2 of Book of Boba Fett, you know?
yeah. I mean, you could say, oh, okay, Ahsoka might be ready, but Ahsoka, they've already said is spring 2023.
Spring
but they could push
2023?
Ahsoka. Yeah. Or spring 2024, excuse me.
Okay.
Right?
Okay.
I feel like that's the case.
There has
Cool.
been so many predictions on the
And
release
things
of
keep changing
Ahsoka.
as
I have no idea when they're planning on dropping that. But I think we're good. The gap will be filled for sure. But Andor season 2 will most likely be a most anticipated. With
yeah.
how great this season has been, with how great the writing has been, the acting and everything else. I really do hope that after, let's say after 2023, it really starts to get on people's lists of things that they had to catch up on. Hopefully Andor will be one of those shows that people come to after
Yeah.
when the season's over.
And Talaric said if they keep up the writing, I'm just thrilled there's a season 2. Yep, you're right, Talaric. You're completely right.
Yeah.
I will give you that. It has been, like Clay said, phenomenally produced, phenomenally well written. And definitely I'm glad that they've already confirmed a season 2 before the show even started.
Yeah.
Because yeah, I need it. I need it really bad. And I'm just an impatient fan. Okay. I can admit my flaws. I was impatient for Star Wars Legends books to come out. Okay. So I like content.
I mean, we also have gotten the great opportunity to be getting books in advance also. So we are going to have plenty of content to keep ourselves busy.
Yes.
Um
March, April, May, July. And
yes.
then whatever comes next, because nothing has been announced after that, other
Oh
than
yeah.
High Republic. So which we know is coming November. So what's in the August to October timeframe? I just like drop things. Fucking hell. I've been up
Well,
since 4:30 a.m. You're gonna have to excuse my energy level.
we will wrap things up really quick. Remember, guys, if you are here on the YouTube channel, we're gonna jump into our Convergence review, the High Republic book. But if not, this will be the end of the episode for Star Wars Alliance, the Andor episode 11 review. Of course, you can always find me at Fanboy Clay on Twitter. You can also search me on, of course, Mastodon, where I did create our Star Wars Alliance account. Of course, it is the exact same because I thought it would be funny. The Star Wars, the A is missing in Wars, very important. Don't forget it. Uh, so go check us out on Mastodon. It looks like I can't have two separate accounts on the app. So I am logged in on Mastodon via my computer and then logged in on my account via my phone. So I will only be updating Star Wars stuff when I am home on Mastodon, but otherwise, I will be in control of that. I will see everything. Go ahead and follow us. I will be putting, of course, our episode links and everything else in there. Probably throw in some random watch along stuff as well if I'm bored and whatnot. So go check all of that out.
And speaking of a Mastodon, if you are an email strictly person, then you can check us out, Star Wars Alliance without the A and the Wars at gmail.com. Because who knows what's going to happen to social media? We never know what social medias will live and which social medias will die. So
Yeah, we would love to read some fan mail. If you guys want to send it our way, we would love to read it here on the show.
yes. Sorry, I'm looking through my convergence notes and clearly I should be paying attention. I'm trying to scroll back to the beginning so that I can be prepared. Okay, y'all, you can find me on Twitter and Instagram. It's at Slice of Katie. Uh and obviously I am on Mastodon. That link is somewhere on my Twitter feed. I will probably I will link Mastodon on my sliceofkatie.com website, and so you can check out all social media platforms that I am available on there. Obviously, I am more of a lurker than a poster, unless I'm just like totally in the mood for something or ranting about migraines. Um, so but I will respond to messages and stuff. I just like to lurk. Okay, I'm not a poster. I'm sorry. I'm shit at it. I didn't even promote Slice of Film this week. Okay, y'all, go check that out if you haven't listened to it. So you can find me there. On Twitter, you can find Star Wars Alliance at Star Wars Alliance while the end of the wars. Very important. Don't forget it. Slice Film on Twitter as well. It's at Slice Film 1. I don't know if I'm going to create a Mastodon for that. I'm probably just going to stick to promoting it on my personal because I'm shit at it anyways. So you can find it there. Mark does have the Twitter account information for it, and he didn't promote it either, and he didn't remind me, so I'll blame Mark this time. Sorry, y'all. I'm going to shut up at some point. So yes, you can do all those things. I am so tired, y'all, and I should not have had that glass of wine. Y'all, if you are wrapping up here, I hope you have a great day or night, whatever time of day you are listening or watching, and we will see y'all next time. Bye, y'all. May the force be with you. Also, jeez, fucking hell.
All right. So, composing ourselves. I already wrote down the time to cut us for that episode, so we're good.
I'm
Uh,
sorry. Okay, I have to run to the bathroom real fast.
yeah, you're good. You're good. I will stick around here. You're good to go. All right. So, we will be very quick. Uh, don't expect this to go longer than about 30 minutes, but who knows? Took no notes on this book because I was listening to it the entire time. All right. But I am almost done. All right. I really enjoyed this book. Convergence.
Okay, I'm back.
All right. All right. Do you want me to do the opener for this one?
You do the opener. I'm like losing my voice.
It's all good. I will start when the timer is at 1:30. Got 30 seconds. I'll promote the crossover thing that we're going to be doing at the end of this week and everything else, so we should be good. Short intro. You ready?
Yep.
All right, 5 seconds. Hello, and welcome back to another episode of Star Wars Alliance. Of course, I am your host, Clay, and with me for another, what I hope will be a great book review, is, of
Oh
course,
yes.
Katie. Katie, how you doing? I know that you gushed about this book already weeks ago when the embargo went up, but how you doing? We
Yes.
just finished recording a Star Wars Alliance episode before this. We're doing this a little bit in advance, but how you doing?
Good. I'm tired. It's been a long day, but I'm so excited to talk about this book. Like we've been like texting on and off about it. And I did not finish the audiobook read through and I greatly appreciate getting those audiobooks in advance. But I cannot figure out for the life of me how to get it to play at 1.5 speed. And it is driving me insane how slow it is.
It See, I do not have that problem because, and I will say this again. Uh, 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 Katie, help me out with the company name again. I always forget.
Random House Worlds.
Random House Worlds. I thought about it on my own the other day, and I was like, "Hey, I didn't need Katie's help, and I needed your help this time." So, Random House Worlds, we do appreciate you giving us the opportunity to one read this in advance and then listen to it in advance.
Yep. I'm so happy I got to read this in advance. Like so happy.
It's so good. I work on the road for anywhere between 4 to 10 hours a day, and I just was just relaxing, and on my routes just got to listen to this, and I think the slower time or the slower speed of normal speed, I know a lot of people are like, that's slow to you guys. um my ADHD brain loves to have things sped up just because I am very impatient, but being able to analyze the situations that were going on in this book, because I will also say this before we get into our review. This felt like a book that could stand outside of Star Wars, and it
Yes.
was awesome.
110%. Zoraida Cordova absolutely killed it. Like unbelievably killed it. And for my non-spoiler review, I'm gonna read my Twitter thread that I did for the embargo release because I literally I thought it through and was like, okay, this is how I can be non-spoilery about it. And this is like the best I can do other than like feedbacking off your non-spoiler thoughts. But like I like and I told you, like 2022, phenomenal year for Star Wars books because Shadow of the Sith, oh, that was my new favorite Star Wars book. I'm sorry, Adam Christopher. Like, I loved the book. I still love the book. Don't get me wrong. But like this is like, I love this. I love this so much. And I was raving to you about it like before you started because I was like, have you started it yet? Have you started it yet? Have you started it yet? And because I'm friends with a bunch of people on Star Wars Twitter, and thankfully Minot Manor had read it. And so he and I were able to have like a little bit discussion about it. Ryan, I call him Minot Manor because that's his username on Twitter. But like
Yes.
Ryan had read it, and so we were able to like discuss some of the key points because I was dying. I am dying at one of the twists in here. Like I did not see it coming, and like that's like
we
embarrassing
we
for me
we
because I'm a
spoke
big
about it,
twist person.
and I am very eager to talk about that as well. Before we jump into non-spoilers real quick, of course, we are part of the GOA network. Down below, you're going to see our entire schedule of weekly, bi-weekly, and monthly shows that we have here. Of course, last week, because this is dropping the week of Thanksgiving, last week we did talk about, of course, the uh the crossover event that is happening, or that did already happen at this point, where we all got together to talk Wakanda Forever. Looking forward to those hot takes for Katie, of course, on what she thought of that movie. we talked a little bit, so I think we're on the same page. But looking forward to it as of course.
Everybody always likes to give me shit for my hot takes. So
we because they are borderline normal hot takes, but then you just add the little bit of spice that's just like what. So we love you, Katie, of course. Um,
of course you do. I totally believe you. Totally.
so go check that out. Of course, it will be on the feeds, and I don't know if Travis is doing the exact same for our crossover as they do with their After Nines. Whether that be it's going to stay on the Patreon for a little bit before it jumps on the feeds, but you can always join us with those crossovers, of course, in our tier 2 Patreon pledge, which is $5 per month. You can join us on those conversations. It'll be very, very fun. Looking forward to what we're going to be talking about in December. So, with that, let's go ahead and jump into this non spoiler part of the review here. I will say this. One, like I said, this is a book that stands on its own, did not really need the Star Wars isms to keep it up with the story at hand. I absolutely loved it. This is a story of betrayal. This is a romance story. This is a story about survival. Like this is so much jam-packed into one book that I absolutely love it. And I honestly think there is one thing that I would cut from this book because it had such a minimal like aspect on this story that I honestly think it could have done without it. But I understand why they put it in there, and I cannot wait to talk to you about it because I want to know your opinion on it. So,
Okay.
Katie, read us some of your thread here for your non-spoiler thoughts.
Okay. So I said, in case you were curious, Zoraida wrote a fantastic Star Wars in Convergence. It's not even fair how good this novel is. Del Rey Star Wars, please keep giving her more books. This book has romance, adventure, war, and intrigue. We hear Star Wars, but we never see the little detailed wars, and Zoraida will get you attached to every single person involved. But the book is not just about the war. The four main characters are so intricately woven together, and it's just enormously impressive how Zoraida again was able to put into a book with multiple perspective. How ugh. It's just enormously impressive how much Zoraida again was able to put into a book with multiple perspectives and get you attached so easily. There's romance galore and just truly magnificent make you fall in love. Yes, that made more sense in my head when I wrote this initially. This is Bridgerton season 2 Anthony Kate romance on steroids for Star Wars, and I think that's one of the highest
Oh,
compliments I can give.
I love that. I love that. That's
I thought that was a great
amazing.
comparison.
That is so good.
Thank
Keep
you. I
going.
really
Keep
thought
going.
that was great. I thought that was great. Uh, Zoraida puts her heart and soul on the pages for these characters, and it truly shows. Um, and then I talked about written and podcast review, and I said, oh, also to have my number one Star Wars book changed twice in 1 year just shows the quality we've gotten is so impressive. CC, Del Rey Star Wars, you're picking fantastic authors.
Yes. Yes,
I
indeed.
thank you for appreciating the Bridgerton season 2 because I had a lot of people like this thread and like that one, but nobody was like, "Oh, yes, I love this." Like,
Like it didn't even dawn on me until you said it. I'm like, oh my god, that makes so much sense. It's so good. I love that comparison. Um, but yeah, I absolutely love that. I'm actually I know we're doing this a little late on your side, and we did this technically all in one live, and we are separating these episodes. I'm going behind the fourth wall here, but I am actually tweeting out again on our Star Wars Alliance uh Twitter account in case there is anybody who would like to watch this live. And I'm also tagging Zoraida in case she wants to pop in and
I
watch us talk and gush about her book. So
don't know, she may be asleep. Who knows? We love you,
true.
Zoraida. You've really written great books, and I have had what are the two books? because I gotta shout it out. Incendiary and Illusionary, which are basically, I don't know what the right word to describe it is. It's very like Latin America, Puerto Rican, um, type vibes. And she completely infuses everything into it. And I've gotten about halfway through Incendiary. My goal for December is to completely demolish those books because I've been wanting to read them for so long and just keep getting sidetracked. But I just from the first half of Incendiary, go check out that book and the series because it's a great book. And I suck because I keep getting distracted. So
Okay, so let's go ahead and get started on this. At this point, we are going to be spoiler filled. So if you haven't read the book, pause this podcast, go read the book. Don't know why you're listening right now. Go read this amazing book, come back
please.
and join us on this wonderful adventure that we're going to be talking about.
And tell Delray Star Wars on Twitter or Random House Worlds Star Wars Alliance sent you if you haven't read it because we're telling you go check out this book right now.
Yes, 100%. Katie, where do you want to start? There is so much happening in this book. Two worlds sharing the same space, sharing the same moon. There is, like we said, so many characters, people in love, people not in love. There is betrayal. There is so much goodness in the book. Where do you want to start?
Okay, so I'm gonna start actually not really talking about the book because I want to get these questions out of the way because otherwise I'm gonna forget about it.
Okay.
So first things first, we get a mention of and I'm gonna butcher this, the Shirka Corporation, which makes an appearance is a KOTOR mention. It's a reference there.
Yes.
So that is kind of like the first like Easter egg thing that I was able to point out. But then there was a question that I had because Gela says when her time came to return to the cosmic energy of the Force, she'd be cremated and her Kyber crystal added to the Kyber arc. What happens to the Kyber arc?
I was very interested in this as well. Because we know that is it's very ceremonious for the Jedi to be cremated. We've seen it in several movies before, and we've also read about it. Um, but what I don't know what this Kyber arc is.
And we know it's like because of the High Republic Phase 1, Wreath manages to cross it after remembering some life lessons from Jorah Mali. And so I guess my biggest question is what happens to it in the Skywalker saga? Are we gonna see this thing demolished in Phase 3 because of some Nihil attack on Coruscant and it's gonna be
Ooh,
demolished?
I never really thought about a Coruscant attack.
Because it's on Coruscant. So
Yeah.
it's like, what's gonna happen to it?
I am very interested. Um, it's something that caused me pause because it's something so normal, like I said, the cremation, and then the small comment, "Oh, then my Kyber will be put upon this arc," and I'm just like, "Never heard of this before. What is this?
Yeah.
Why?" Like,
We knew because Jorah kind of explains it that oh, this houses the kyber crystals of Jedi long gone and stuff, and she kind of phrases it that way. So we kind of knew that, but it begged my question because we're talking so much about the future of like beyond the Skywalker saga and everything. I'm like, this would be stunning to be seen in the movies. Wait,
yeah,
we didn't see it in the Phantom Menace or Attack of the Clones or Revenge of the Sith. What happened to it? So.
yeah,
Um, the next thing I had, which was just a kind of foreshadowing, for Cataclysm, was Axel makes a comment and says, "Would you feel the same if I borrowed your lightsaber?" Which he is pictured on the cover of Cataclysm with one of presumably Gela's lightsabers.
yes, and we spoke about this. Um, Axel is I said this in a text to you the other day. Axel is a character that for me, because I know that you were just like, oh, he's a bad boy, and I love a bad boy. Um, for me, he's a character that I love to hate and I hate to love. And the
Yep.
reason that is because there was so many twists and turns in his arc, in his character arc, in his story that
And it's
you're like,
so well written. I just
it is so
I
well
can't get over
written.
that.
You get the very big Han Solo vibe, the Lando vibe in the beginning of his introduction. He's he's gambling, he is kind of a roughneck, he's like blasting people. Like you're like, okay, I know the type of character he is. Then you get to know exactly who he is in the sense of, oh, he's royalty. Okay, he's a little bit of a scumbag. He has daddy issues. Well, technically mommy issues. And then it goes into like, just the snot nosed royalty kid that the vibe that you get in some of the parts of this book. And there's so like because you get a moment where he is very snobbish and he is like, oh, I'm getting kind of dirty, I need a bath, blah blah. And then immediately after that, he is shown in a way of truly being a friend or truly being on the side of our protagonists. So it's like,
Yep.
oh, I hate that you're so well written and you're so good to the people around you, and yet there's something in the background that we're not seeing yet. What is that? And we eventually saw it.
Yep.
Uh
And it's funny you mentioned Lando, just real quick. There's a part where Axel says he records daily journals with Quinn, his therapy droid, that is like
mhm.
kind of his best friend at this point. And I literally wrote down first issue of the Lando Chronicles question mark.
Well, not only does Axel do it, but the I believe the senator does it as well. Oh shoot, what is his name? Starts with an M.
Oh,
Uh the
um,
Hollows with Malo. That's what it
yeah.
was. Yeah.
And those are kind of just like, yeah, I think so.
Just like the very catchphrasey thing, I laughed at it and I thought about Lando when
Yep.
they phrased it that way. Um but since we're kind of going on this trajectory, um
I'm just kind of going through my notes on the book,
okay.
and then I was like gonna hit like plot points, I guess,
Okay.
because I had like some questions, like the Jedi champion that Gela
Oh
faces,
yeah.
and because his name's like Dario Melik, and I was like, do we know that name from somewhere? Like, is this name like supposed to be relevant? And the only thing I could find was Meckel, who was a Jedi turned Sith in KOTOR. So that was the only thing
So
I could find there.
yeah, and he had a double-bladed lightsaber in
Yeah, double
this
bladed
book.
green lightsaber.
Yeah. Uh but he was not an actual Jedi, nor was
Yep.
he force sensitive, which I thought was very, very interesting. Um, like, how exactly did he get the lightsaber? How did they come in contact with this kind of person to become this champion? And he even, uh, like, made like a little bit of a show, like, oh, you're not gonna take this win from me. And then like once they like got really close, he's like, wait, is this all part of your act? Like, are you actually a
Yep.
Jedi? Or like he unveiled really quickly when he got super close to Gela in that fight. I love these parts though.
Yep.
Because the chapter immediately before, or two chapters before that, it left on the cliffhanger of a lightsaber going straight to Gela's heart. I was listening to the audiobook, so it made it very dramatic. And then the next chapter went somewhere else, and then we came back to it. So you're kind of wondering, like, oh man, what's gonna happen? And then it ends up being this fake Jedi. I think it played very well. It's very fun. That was kind of when we got to see a little bit more of the Sniving, Axel Greylark. That name altogether, man. Axel Greylark. For some reason, whenever I hear the name Greylark, I immediately think of Fairly Odd Parents.
Yep.
With Skylark,
Yeah,
the
that's
the the s- the singer or whatever from the cartoon. I thought that was hilarious. But what else? What else did you have written down?
um there's so the gas that they use towards the end, it kind of reminded me of the Nihil gas. Um
Yes.
I guess my only question, which now that I'm reading this, there's a line from Creighton, and he said he felt the Jedi lose their connection in the Force one by one, and I'm like, is that the gas? But now that I'm reading it, I'm like, okay, that's the Jedi dying. Never mind.
That's so I assume that as well. Uh like I was starting to read too much into it because as soon as I heard as soon as I heard and read about the gas, it immediately made me think of the Nihil. Uh,
Yeah.
and then with the accompanying words of I started to feel everybody lose connection to the force. I'm like, wait, is the nameless here? What's going on? Like I started to get freaking PTSD from last phase, you know? But yeah, it's supposed to be that there in just the confusion, everybody was dying. Uh I'm still very confused because they didn't really it was so quick. Uh I can't remember which Jedi it was, whether it be Charl Roy or the other Jedi Master, but like somebody dumped like salt
Yeah,
water
dumps.
on him or something.
Yeah, and that helped clear up his vision and everything.
Yeah.
The other thing that uh I felt was very deja vu is the Paxion. Because it was attacked at the end right there. And this is kind of jumping around, but like there's no context to this. The Paxion splits in two, one headed towards the city and one towards the ocean. I was like, this feels like fucking deja vu. Because Iram is the planet that the Starlight Beacon split into over, and one half fell into the ocean and the other burned up in the atmosphere. So,
Yeah.
uh, yeah. So those were like my big highlights, notes on the book, other than fucking finally, ha ha ha, like you deserve it, you fucking asshole. So,
Wait, I guess I totally spaced on that. Iram is where
yeah.
Starlight Beacon falls to. Now, correct me if I'm wrong. I'm gonna have to go back to Adventures because I'm pretty sure Adventures, as well as the Fallen Star, mention the leader of Iram making contact with the Jedi. Right? I am pretty
Yes.
sure. So I need to know their last name because then we know how well the relationship of this book goes.
Well, let me see if I can Google that real fast.
Yeah, I totally forgot about that because if I mean, I'm sure I would love to be the fly on the wall for the High Republic writing room because they have been doing such a great job and I do think that they wouldn't just like forget about something like that or I don't know. I just think that they could have easily said, "Oh, well if this is what happened in the Fallen Star, let's play into it here in
Well,
Convergence."
okay. So Paxion, I think that plays into it. But I didn't want to say anything because I wasn't sure. So the ruler of Iram is Dima, who's married to Queen Vandeka, her consort.
Yes.
Um, and so we do know for a fact that at least 15 years before the High Republic Phase 1, because of the I guess the interlude chapters with um what is it, what are their fucking names, Orla and Comac, the chapters with Orla and Comac, uh they have the king of Areno or Areno and
Yes.
the queen of Iram, Fandeka, the consort, when they meant to capture the queen and the king. So they have split up rulership at the time of phase 1.
That's kind of disappointing. Like it's disappointing in the sense of whether it be on purpose or on accident. Like you get such a great story with
It's such a great story.
how they are like getting together via marriage in this. Like, guys, I've
And like
already said this in the other reviews. I'm a sucker for a love story, and this was such a good story. Like it
because it's
really was.
absolutely a marriage of convenience, which is a huge trope in the romance community, I'm finding out.
Yes.
Um, but it works out if it can unite their two warring countries or warring planets, excuse me, which right now they've been at war for 5 years, but Fantu and Ziri, Ziri is the princess of Arano, and Fantu is the prince of Iram. And so they both talk about how their grandparents remembered war with the opposite planet and stuff. So we know they've been warring for generations, not just the last 5 years. So their goal, basically, they go through peace talks with Chancellor Molo, the Outer Rim Chancellor, and some of the Jedi, and basically they go back and forth and are like, no, this isn't good enough. And finally, it comes down to it where Gela actually makes a suggestion to Ziri and is like, well, sometimes you can like bind the two in a unique way. I can't remember the exact phrasing or whatever. Um, but she's basically insinuates, oh, okay, there's other ways you can do this with like a connection between two people. And Zeri kind of puts it together and is like, I know how we can unite our planets. I will marry Fantu.
Yeah.
And they all go silent and are like, what the fuck?
I I love, and this is like it's such a heartbreaking story as well because there is also a little bit of realism in what you could easily see as soldier PTSD in this book as well.
Yeah. It's a
With
great
how
articulate point.
some of these soldiers being in this war for so long, they don't know, like, the idea of a war ending is like impossible for them, so they
Yeah.
just keep fighting, even when everybody's telling them, hey, the war is over, the war is over, we're talking peace, we've got,
Yeah.
all of this stuff, and they just keep fighting. Of course, there are strings being pulled behind the scenes that we later see, but even still, those people pulling the strings have this mentality that the only way that peace can be fought, or that peace can even happen, is if the opposing team, the enemy, is all but dead, which is insane. Um, but
And the war started because Ziri's brother ends up crash landing in Irem and doesn't make it out of the ocean.
yeah,
And that's a hard way to do it because you're like, oh, okay, well, I lost my brother. And you got to know, like, okay, like the king's probably devastated, but at the same time, he crashed. What is the planet going to do? Like, are they supposed to just monitor their oceans 24/7? Like,
and it's
so,
rough. Like compared to the two different planets, we know that Arano, I believe, of course we may get them mixed up. I believe Arano is the dry planet
yep,
and Iram is the water planet. So they're complete opposites, but very, very similar because we see in the in this book we see that like one thing in particular, which is a bigger story point later on in the book, that the scorpions on Iram are uh very poisonous, while the Arano scorpions are not poisonous. So it's very, very interesting on how
mhm.
some of the small things are really like diving deep into this story. And I see that we actually have one viewer here. Thank you so much for showing up. This is Tom Hoyler. This is a wonderful conversation. We
And
love
he is
this book.
actually the senior editor for this book.
Holy crap! Hi, Tom. This is amazing. Did not even know that.
You didn't
That is
listen to the
great.
interview Nathan and I did with him?
I'm sorry. I'm sorry. I didn't. I wait. How long ago was that? That
That
was
was
before.
almost 2 years ago. Tom,
Yeah,
we're
this
gonna
is.
have you back on.
That is great, Tom. This book was wonderful. We would love to have you on the show for sure. This story, I want to talk about something really quick. Um, this I did say there was one part that was the connective tissue, and you talked about this in your non spoilers. Uh, for I think it was at the end of when we talked about Quest of the Hidden City because you were already starting on this book.
I could
Um
not help it. This book is so great. Like,
um
I just chomping at the bit.
we were
Sorry.
talking about connective tissue. And I said that this book, in our non-spoiler thoughts, that this book is very much a book that if it wasn't in the Star Wars universe, it could still totally make sense. And there was things in this that you needed to have in order to connect one story to the other. And that is, of course, the path of the open hand, the mother.
Yeah.
She was there, but she was there only to poke the bear. And because I don't really see anything else other than the moments with the queen, and of course with Chaos, her nickname for Axel, Chaos.
Which
Um,
that was like, I had like 4 F-bombs on that like part where it was revealed that Chaos is Axel. I was like, no, absolutely no. Fuck, 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 fuck.
well, and that was the thing, and I had texted you because you were when I finally told you that I was done reading the book. You immediately texted me. Did you see Axel's betrayal coming? And I kind of did. And it was because at the end of part one, I said, at the end of chapter 9, he in a very like heated conversation with him and his mother,
Yep.
um, royalty, of course, to Coruscant. Uh, he said, "Mom or mother, just know that I don't blame you for what happened to father. I blame the Jedi." And then in the audiobook, there's like all this dramatic music, and then the chapter ends, and I'm like, oh no, what's gonna happen? And that was, I feel like, if I was I did, because of course we got this book early in advance. I did read it and then listen to it. I do think that there was enough context there that he was holding something against the Jedi. Clearly, he was holding something against them.
Listening back to it, and again, I haven't finished it, but listening back to it because I just got so engrossed in what was happening, and I was trying to take notes the entire time, but I was like, "Oh yeah, Gela, and Axel, like that was my Anthony and Kate romance, where it's like the hand touchy thing is like."
I Okay, and this is where me as a Star Wars fan and then me as a romance fan butt heads so much. I don't want Axel and Gela to happen, but I want Axel and Gela to happen. And I hate it. It's so conflicting because of
Chaos
the
reigns supreme.
because of who he is as a character. He is everything that is opposite of Gela. Everything. And then I told
Those
you
make the best romance stories
when you
because
texted me, I said he broke everybody's heart by betraying them, but he broke my heart when he told Gela he loved her. And I was like, you bastard. Why would you do this? Why would you do everything and then confess your love like that? I hate you. I love you. Ah, this book was so good.
Matt just messaged me on Discord. I was like, I don't know what you're talking about, but Chaos is a ladder, not an axle. Shut up. No, okay, in regards to like the turn, listening back to it, I can totally see it. I still didn't want it to happen because I was like, I like who he is, and I felt like he was changing, and I still feel like he's gonna change because obviously we're gonna get in the Cataclysm, right? And he's
Yes.
holding a lightsaber, so like he has to change, right? Right? Um, but
Mm,
but so yeah, that's my whole feelings on the situation. I love Axel as a character, and I think he keeps you guessing because, like, even after, okay, he was the bad guy, he did all these things, this is how he has the connections. He even went to go see the mother on Dalna before he came to Irem. So it's like, oh, okay, so he did this, but he's had this connection with Gela, and now it's changed, and he's changed for the better. The whole finale happens, and I'm like, "Dude, really? Really? You couldn't have just, like, left and just gone, 'Okay, I'm just gonna leave because now I have my inheritance.'" He
he
has to do
had
this whole plan thing.
he had the entire opportunity to change, and he didn't.
Yep.
And of course, this is how Zoraida wrote the book. Of course, it was already pre-planned, right? But you want to root for the guy.
You
you want to
want
just
to.
yell at his face and just say you're doing the wrong thing here. Um but you're right. You're right. It's those types of characters that make the best kind of, I guess, opposing romance character to the
Yep.
one that you think is in the right. With that would be, of course, the Jedi with Gela. Um, but it's so odd because even her character, she is going through a lot. She is on reassignment. There was something that happened dramatically on her latest mission that she was on.
Yeah, she basically gets a lot of people hurt, um, and taking leadership is kind of, I guess, like, the best way to summarize kinda what happens because we get, like, a little summary, but not like, "Oh, this is why this happened," or anything. It's just kind of she's, talking with, the Padawan, and I can't remember the Padawan's name.
I was
Um
just trying to think of it. All I remember is that it starts with an E. I always remember
Yep.
the first letter of their names, but never the whole thing. Let me look it up real quick.
But she's talking to the Padawan, and, like, Gela just goes on such a fantastic journey, and I love the transformation she takes because she's unsure of herself, and she's Enya Keen. Thank you, Tom.
Yes.
Um, uh Gala, oh my gosh, just goes on a pronounced journey where she truly finds herself, and Axel actually really helps her find that
Yes.
path because she's like, "Well, I'm a Jedi. This is what I do," and that's the quote on the back of the book that has been going viral on Twitter. Um, for she says, "If I was not a Jedi, I would not be who I am," and it out of context, you're like, "Oh, okay, that's like fluffy language," but, like, in context, that's such a powerful moment for her
Mhm.
in the book because Axel actually, like, kind of talks to her and is like, "Well, you could come away with me, we could do our own thing," and she's like, "I'm a Jedi. This is who I am." There
Just the way he phrases it, though, he's just like, "Hey, maybe, like, if you weren't a Jedi, do you think that maybe" it's such that awkward high school, like, "Hey, maybe, if you weren't with this other guy, like, could we ever have a chance, maybe?"
Yep,
Like, and I loved it because, again, it's that opposite. We see the Axel that is cold, calculated. He has malice. He has intent to hurt the Jedi, but he meets somebody that he is supposed to hate, and he
yep,
absolutely falls for her. And in this way, he is just like, I I have to change for her, but I can't change for the people that have hurt because of them. Because he's grouping the Jedi as a whole because of the incident that happened when he was a child.
yep.
And it breaks my heart to be like, I hate you, I love you, I hate you. And it's just like, I was all over the place when reading this book.
Yep, exactly, and but, like, originally, like, at the beginning of the book, and this is one of the notes I made, uh Gala, like, makes a comment and is like, "Maybe I'd be better off on my own." And I wrote in, the book, I was like, "Oh, okay, so this is the origin of the Wayseeker." it's not the origin of the Wayseeker, spoiler alert, because she chooses to become a Wayseeker at the end of it, and the
Yeah.
term's already defined. But she gets Axel's ship and everything, and kind of gets to go out on her own and everything, and it's she's learned from Axel so much, but also she knows she's still a Jedi at heart, and she has to follow the Force, but she can do it in her own way. And
Yes.
it's a transformative arc for Jella, and it's oh, I love this book so much. And I wanted her and Axel to work out, obviously. Just like I need like a what if book where it's like Jella and Axel run off
There
together.
there has been so many conversations that I've had with other Star Wars fans that ever since What If happened on Disney Plus, they're like, "Oh, Star Wars needs to make a What If, you know? That would be great. Have episodes for each of the Star Wars episodes and everything else, you know? What if
Yep.
Anakin didn't turn to the dark side and stuff like that?" I would love, and I guess what most people thought of the Legends books is the, you know, what if the story continued, and that's what it
Yeah.
was. But I definitely need a intentional what if storyline for so many different things in this universe, and I think it would be great. uh Going on to some of the more story plots of this, now again, ADHD brain, listening to this story while at work on the road for the past 5 days. Um, was it the mother who had the yellow lightsaber? There was a yellow lightsaber mentioned.
So I think by that point, when she has the yellow lightsaber, I think Path of Deceit has taken place. And so she has
So
the yellow lightsaber from there.
so this book takes place during, in the middle, and after Path of Deceit?
I think. I think.
Okay.
Because obviously we know Axel goes to visit the mother on Thelma. And we're having all these conversations and stuff, and then she has a lightsaber. But also like I remember what's the cousin's name?
Uh
Um Yana Rowe. I thought Yana
yes.
Rowe had, or no, was it
No,
Yana Rowe? Or was it Marta
Yana
Rowe? Marta.
Marta has the lightsaber.
Yeah.
Yana has the staff. So what happened to Marta?
That was my question when I was reading it. Was like, wait, she has the lightsaber. So did something happen to Marta?
Like I'm worried. Like, because if something happened to Marta and Yana is still there with everybody, the path of the open hand, like I'm scared for what's going to come out next year. Inya
Enya
has
has
the
the yellow lightsaber.
Okay, so we were so confused at that point. There was, because again, like I said, there was a lot going on in these chapters, and it's one of the reasons why I hate and love listening to episodes at 2 point speed on Audible and things like that. But like, for me, I got a little too caught up doing my job, of course. Uh and then all of a sudden I hear yellow lightsaber and I immediately remember Path of the Deceit, and I was like, what is happening? What's going on?
I was kind of going along with what you were saying because I don't remember like the end of the book because I read it and I've been trying to get through it. Again, I I like listening to it at 1.5 speed. So
I'm doing another reread right now. I mean, and another re-listen. Tom says, no worries. It's when the assassin is going to, they think, kill Ziri, but then they are captured, and the yellow lightsaber is a nod to Inya, was in
okay.
Ziri's room. Okay, okay. But I also want to
Tom,
talk
how do you
about,
remember this stuff? I don't
I get, this is how editors work. It's amazing.
yes,
Um
it amazes me.
I also want to talk about, because we haven't talked much about Ziri in Fontu.
I love because Ziri is this militaristic woman and she kind of reminded me of myself. And I say that about a lot of Star Wars characters, but it just astounds me about how much, but like she's like this militaristic woman. She's having to live in her brother's shadow, uh, who was killed, and her father, the monarch, is like, I wish you were your brother in his like without saying it kind of thing.
Yes, but there I will say this, there was moments where Ziri was able to, like, break him down a little bit and
Hmm.
get him to really show his, like, younger fatherly side, which I absolutely loved.
But it was when
Um
she was dressed as it was when she was dressed up. It was not when she was dressed in a militaristic garb.
Mhm. Yeah,
And every other time she's like in the tunic and like fighter pilot stuff, and her father's just like, "Blah, blah, blah, blah," and she has to literally pull out the "I am your daughter," like, and like
yeah.
force it to feed
Kind of
it
remind
to
him.
him.
Yeah. Uh, I love these characters. Like you said, the idea of Ziri being the commander of this army at the very beginning, and you don't really know until it hits you, I think in like chapter 2, where I think it was her right hand is uh is saying commander, commander, and then all of a sudden he
Yeah.
says Ziri, and she's like, no, don't try that with me.
Yep.
And the commander's name, I should have wrote all these names down.
I have
Um
them highlighted
he
somewhere.
ended up uh dead in
Yes, that broke my heart because even though I felt like he had like a crush on
Sagaru,
Ziri, at
right? Lieutenant Sagaru, I believe is his
yes, he's
name.
a captain by the end of it.
Yes,
But
he is
yes.
a captain, but Lieutenant Sagaru was the guy that didn't get the girl
That's
because
what he felt like, right?
there was moments, like in the very beginning, "Commander, there is something that I really wanna tell you." And she says, "Oh, well, can it wait after this?" And he kinda gets like, he kinda gets irritated at it. And then there's other
Captain,
moments,
not commander.
sorry, Captain. And then there's other moments on the Paxian where he is kind of nodding at the fact that, like, "Hey, why are you choosing to marry this guy when I'm standing right here,
Yep.
a free man?" And
Yep.
I felt it the entire time. And when he ends up dying, I was like, "Oh no, they're gonna blame it on on Fantu." And then my second thought was, he didn't get the girl.
Yep.
And I'm kind of glad because the way the romance grew with Fantu and Ziri was beautiful.
It was
It be
organic. It was
Yes.
purely beaten out. It was literally the, "Oh, okay, arranged marriage, marriage of convenience," and it just works out where they can see eye to eye, and I love the connection they have when Ziri crash lands on, Irem, and Fantu goes and rescues her and literally pulls out her Bane blade, which is a part of themselves, and, like, cuts her free and pulls her to shore, and then she like takes it and holds it to his throat. And I was just like, I love this. Marriage ring, where is it? Like, baby, like, give it to me right now.
I I love immediately after that the whole thing with him. She notices how like soft spoken he is,
Hmm.
how polite he is. He keeps saying please, please, please. That's something that she very much notices. And when they have the conversation, she's like, "Who the heck are you? Like, why do you think that you have any importance in my life right now? I'm on the enemy planet. These guards are here.
Yep.
Like, I'm dead in the water here." And he's just like, "You could either go to them in a cell, or you could come with me, go to my mother, the ruler of this world,
Yep.
and we could work some things out." And they're like, "Okay, well, how do we know that we're going to be true to ourselves?" Right? And that's when she gives the Bane blade to him. He gives her a
A string of pearls, I think is what it is.
yes, the a trinket around his neck, I think it was. Uh But I even love when they are at the peace summit and they're like, okay, all weapons, give them up. And he says, no, I can't do it yet. I can't give
Yep.
this up because we haven't finished what we had said we were going to finish. We
Yep.
haven't finished what we started. Um and Fontu as a character, he is, I will say this, I feel like he's a stereotypical pretty boy, but at the same time,
He's got a good heart.
he has a great heart. Like I love the like brotherly relationship that grows with him and Axel at times, even though I love to hate Axel and I hate to love Axel, you know. Uh but it was so good. I loved this entire adventure. It got intense at times with like the military individuals that they found with bombs
Hmm.
strapped to them, and they were sitting on mines and all of these
Yep.
crazy things. And we end up finding out that, again, like I said, strings were being pulled behind the scenes. That with the mother, the path of the open hand, as well as the viceroy over
Yep.
in Arano. Uh, and it was chaos ensued. We talked a lot about this book already, but it was amazing. I
It
love this.
It really is, and I love like, it does stand on its own, but it does have those connections where you're like, "Okay, who is the mother? Who is the mother? Why is she important?" And you know, okay, she's the one pulling all the strings, and, like, oh, she offered help to, Irem when they were out of rations, and then they started working on poisons, and that's kind of where this whole endeavor came about and stuff, and you're like, okay, I want to know more about her. It gives you the opportunity to go, okay, let's go look. Where else can I find details about her? Okay, let's go look at Path of Deceit, and like explore that book. I think
I
it's a great way to do it because it doesn't feel forced to do it. Whereas with like Light of the Jedi, you go, okay, wait, Avar Kriss was a main character in the first book. Where is she in Rising Storm?
Yeah, yeah,
And I'm not like I love those books, don't get me wrong, but it's just like it's a different way to tell a story, and I loved it. I
yes.
ate it up. I will eat it for breakfast all day long.
I will say this, although I could see a different like version of this story not have the mother, when I read it and I read on the page mother, like the name mother, my jaw dropped and I was like, the mother is a part of this. What is she doing here? What does she want with Iram and Arano? What could she even do to Iram and Arano?
Yep.
And it's so crazy to think that, because we still have not yet seen, even in this book, we have not yet seen the power that she has. Because, yeah,
Hmm.
the queen said, oh, she said that she would help us with this if we gave her this. Okay, well, you could do that with anybody, you know? Like
Yeah.
the path of the open hand really still at this point feels like just the concept. Yeah, we've kind of learned a little bit of what they do. They talk about the force and how it should be free and everything else, although they steal, artifacts on the side. We know this, but they don't seem like such a big threat. And yet the mother is seemingly in these other books having
Hmm.
people underneath her thumb, and I don't know how she does it.
Yeah. The only thing I can think of is maybe the beauty, and I love how it kind of ties you in back to Shadowfall for Alphabet Squadron. With the cult there, it seems very similar terminology that they have chosen to just go, oh, okay, this is going to kind of apply to our cults, I guess, in Star Wars.
Mhm.
And it really is a great way to tie everything together. And I can't think of that cult's name in Shadowfall, but I mentioned it in our Path of Deceit review. But I really think the Path of the Open Hand leads to that cult in the end of things. Like we have members who still remember it and want and go in that direction of taking things and manipulating it over time. Um, But yeah, this book is fantastic. I love the connections it has, but also the lack of connections it has because and I think this has been a good thing for wave 1 of phase 2 is the fact that you've had the mother crossover and then you have Sunny crossover. And the mother has been in all 3 books and then you have Sunny in 2. Children of the Empty Sun. Thank you, Tom. Tom
Bam.
coming in clutch again.
God.
Um
Tom, I need you in my all day life. Like, just hit me with those things that I immediately forget all the time, you know? So, just to kind of wrap this up, because we have been going for, I think, just about an hour, which I think so far, I think this might be the longest review. I think the Path of Deceit was just under an hour. We're creeping up on that. But I love this book. Some small little notations that I have mentally that I absolutely loved. It was a little ridiculous, but the band continuing to play during the wedding at the very end while everything was going down.
Well, it's just one of those legendary fight scenes, like, oh, okay, so something bad happened, and the band's just like, oh, okay, well, I'm paid to play, so I'm just gonna.
Well, I feel like it was a little bit of a callback of at the beginning of the book when they were at the bar in the middle of the gambling scene. I can't remember
Uh,
the basically the mobster woman, but she told the band never stop playing, and even when Axel was
yeah,
blasting everybody, they were still playing. And then at the very end, when the guard came in, that's when they finally stopped playing. And I felt like it was just a small little callback to that. Um, but I love the action scene at the end with all the Jedi. Um, there was a really big moment where like the cavalry came in and I felt pumped. Like I was like, yeah,
yes,
this is like it really
absolutely.
did
Like, you're
it
like,
did feel like
oh,
a one of those like hurrah moments. So I loved that. The small small and big, because a lot of things that we learned in this book is that both worlds were really big on like legends and prophecy and things like
mhm.
that. And there was a moment where Fontu had gotten lost in the underground caves or whatever. And when he uh
Yes,
pulling the Top Gun, yeah, exactly, at the wedding, there was the moment where Fontu came walking covered in scorpions, like made
uh-huh,
my skin crawl. But like I thought that was really cool because Ziri had a huge smile on her face because she knew at that moment, like the people of Arano were seeing this, and they're like,
yep,
"Oh, that Thylefire maid," I think is the phrase that they say,
yep,
um, and that's the phrase that she ended up telling her father, like because that was something that she told him. We don't cry, your thou fire made, like, I love the Top Gun moment, Tom, because she catches uh I believe at this point is it the Viceroy or is it I think it's still the Viceroy because at that point his
yeah.
son had already died. Um he They basically caught him with his pants down. He got so arrogant with how angry Ziri was getting him. And I love this moment also because it was a moment where Ziri noticed it for the very first time that Arano and Iram fighters were fighting together during
Side by side, yeah.
side by side against these drill ships. And I was just like it was just like some of those happy tears. It is his son. All right. So the Viceroy was dead at that
Flipped
point.
it. Yeah, because I
Yeah.
think Axel kills the Viceroy.
Yeah. Yeah. So I loved all of this. Ziri getting under his skin, getting a call back to I believe her name was Kenny, the elder soldier in the very beginning,
Yeah.
where I love her line at the very beginning of this whole story where Blitz is kind of like he's nervous, but he's kind of talking about how like he
Mhm.
wants to go home, he wants to eat his mom's stew and everything else. And he's like, "Oh, well, back in the day, they were able to tell something during the time of the day or something like that. I can't remember exactly the right verbiage, but like the ships would come over the city or the palace or whatever, and Kenny was like, well, if that's true, then I'm ages old. I love the way Mark Thompson just put a whole bunch of character into all of his voices again in this book. And Ziri asks Kenny, like, oh, do you remember that move you taught us? And she's like, oh, was it this one or was it this one? It was the dive, the dive. Like it was so like even in the middle of
The
a
intricacies, yeah.
like it's such a chaotic moment and you're like on your toes, but it's such a fun moment also. Like I really love when a writer can have fun moments in serious moments and it
Yep.
not take away from the serious moment. Like I love when a writer can do that, and Zoraida was able to do that for the entire third act of this book.
She absolutely did. And like just weaving in the different traditions between Irem, like Fantu talks about going and fishing for pearls for Ziri, and that's a rite of passage. That's supposed to be like the engagement ring and
Mhm.
stuff. The scorpions, the Thylefire Maid part, it kind of reminds me of like some of the intricacies Gilroy weaves into between Ferrix, the bricking custom, and the Chandrilan old marriage customs, which I still want to see a Mon Mothma book. Tom, you're here. I'm throwing that out there so you know. Um, I'm taking advantage. No, I absolutely love this book. Again, I truly cannot believe how lucky we've been to be Star Wars fans this year because, again, like I had 2 number 1 Star Wars books this year. It's fantastic. I love it. I'm like people ask me all the time, "Well, do you miss Star Wars Legend stories?" And I'm like, "Yeah, I do." But you know what? I'm so lucky to be a Star Wars reader right now because we have so many books coming out right now and we had 2 Star Wars Legends books a year. If that, we were lucky. So, yeah, I was like I'm over the moon. Like I'm still hoping we can get Zoraida for an interview. I know we asked. I haven't heard anything back yet. But like I just absolutely like jam-packed love it. Um and I hope she knows that she did a great job. Clay, I know you haven't read this one. Crash of Fate is her young adult Star Wars book. It's another
Okay.
romance. It's great. And once again, y'all, if you were here at the beginning, Incendiary and Illusionary is her duology right now. Um, and I know she's written a lot of other anthologies. But Incendiary so far has been great, even though I've had to stop reading it twice because I get distracted. I'm gonna start it over and I'm gonna finish it this time because after talking about this, I'm so excited. I'm so fucking pumped. Like, I want her to come back and write more Star Wars books because this is the type of Star Wars book that I need. So
Yeah. Really, really great stuff. Is there any last tidbits that we want to comment on for the end of this review?
I don't think so. Y'all, if you're listening, and you've read the book now, let us know what you think. I would love to share your opinions, on the book. And like make sure like if you love this book, go like or if you're interested, go check it out at your local library. If you don't want to purchase it, like this is a great romance. I really think Abby would love this.
Yeah. I am going to try to convince her to listen to it at the very least. So when because we share our Audible account. So I I know she's listened to maybe one or two of my Audible purchases, not even sure if they are technically Star Wars, but I would love to hear her opinion on this because, like I said, this doesn't necessarily feel like a Star Wars book until you hear the very recognizable Star Wars isms in this book.
Yeah.
Um, and I think that has a
This could have
great
been
thing
a
going
Dawn of the
for it.
Jedi book for all I
Yeah.
know, with like swords and stuff, where it was like before lightsabers and everything. Like it's just, as, oh my gosh, I would like. I'm just gonna shut up because I would just rave all night long.
No, it's all good, of course. We love our Star Wars content here. I know that we have been doing great on our book reviews. You guys have been there and showed up and listened to all of our book reviews. You've even made comments about how much we are different from other Star Wars podcasts in doing these reviews. So thank you
Hmm.
very much for being here and listening to us. Of course, by the time this is actually on our podcast feeds, it should already be close to Thanksgiving and on Thanksgiving, because I will be sharing this on Thanksgiving on our normal episode drop date. So for our American friends, happy Thanksgiving. But of course, you can always find me at Fanboy Clay on Twitter and on Mastodon. So go check me out there. Our Star Wars Alliance account on Mastodon is live. I have already followed Katie, myself, some of the GUA folks. So go check us out there, where I will be posting, of course, our episodes, our lives. I will be talking about some watch alongs, whenever we need to study for stuff and things like that. I will be doing that as well. So go check me out on Mastodon over at Star Wars Alliance. But Katie, what about yourself?
Y'all, you can find me on Twitter and Instagram and Mastodon, whatever server I'm on, at Slice of Katie. This show you can find on Twitter and Instagram and Mastodon. It's at Star Wars Alliance without the A, and the war is very important. And that is also the email address that you can find us at, Star Wars Alliance without the A, and the wars at gmail.com. Um, Star Wars Alliance is the word. Don't add without the A in the wars after Alliance. So that is the email. If you are just leaving social media and are looking to still stay in touch, participate in giveaways, that will be a very good way in the future to do giveaways, is to talk to our email. Of course, we would love to hear your feedback, whether it's at the email, whether it's on your favorite podcatcher of choice. Those reviews really help us a lot, and we love hearing feedback on the show. Greatly appreciate it. If you love a certain segment we do, I know Clay and I'm getting Clay to read from a certain point of view, so we are hoping to tack that on at the end of shows, 5 at a time, so that we can be prepared for return of from a certain point of view. So whenever that decides to make an appearance. But y'all, I hope y'all have a great day or night, whatever time of day you are listening or watching, and we will see y'all next time. May the force be with you.
See ya. And I just want to say, Tom, thank you so much for showing up here on the live. But we are out of here.